So, faraway Lucas, why are we talking about this particular topic in today's video?
I'm not sure, Karl. You tell me.
Oh yeah, my brother requested it, so this one's for you, Gary. So faraway Lucas, as you often do, would you like to explain to the lovely audience at home what the topic of today's Wikipedia Weekends is?
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about Antman, and more specifically, we're talking about Hank Pym, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, Henry Hank Pym, the original Antman, and we're referring specifically to the Marvel Wiki, a link to which you will find below. Also, don't bother fucking sending me any requests. I'm doing this because it was my brother who asked. Anyway, moving on, we'll start, as we often do at the beginning, with the biographical information about Mr. Henry Hank Pym. So we have here, real name, Henry Jonathan Hank Pym. Current alias, Giant Man. So he's no longer Ant-Man Lucas, he's Giant Man.
Oh,
How
wow.
fast they grow up, eh? And aliases, Ant-Man, Goliath, Yellow Jacket, Wasp, Earth's Scientist Supreme. I don't know if I like that or not, because that's very clearly a nod to the Sorcerer Supreme, so it must be like the scientific equivalent. Anyway, other names include the Scientific Adventurer, Gigantus, the Mage, and the Master of Many Sizes. Which, you know what, I don't mind that one. We have relatives, so we have like Angela Pym, Brad Pym, Doris Pym, Janice Trovaya, and it's like Vernon Van Dyne, Mary Trovaya, Janet Van Dyne, Nadia Pym, William Nelson, Ultron, his creation/son, Ultron 1, creation/son, Dimitrios, creation/son, Alexis, creation/daughter, Eton, creation/daughter, Fountain, creation/. So I'm assuming that he just made a shit ton of fucking robots and said, I am your father. Because this continues and just keeps listing fucking robots that he made.
Oh, God.
And then we have the affiliations. Formerly the Avengers Academy, the Avengers Artificial Intelligence Squad, the Avengers Heroes Reborn, the Secret Avengers, the Mighty Avengers, the Global Reaction Agency for Mysterious Paranormal Activity, the Secret Defenders, which means he's a member of the Secret Defenders and the Secret Avengers, the Avengers West Coast, the Avengers, he's a founding member of them, the Defenders themselves, future Iron Man's team, Knights of the Atomic Round Table, partner of Wasp, and Pym Laboratories. So he's had a long and storied career which has involved fighting alongside the Avengers, the West Coast Avengers, the Secret Avengers, the Defenders, and the Secret Defenders. Base of operations includes the Avengers compound in Los Angeles, Crofton University in Washington, D.C., Lighthouse in Earth's orbit, the Infinite Avengers Mansion, a captive aboard a Skrull ship, the Avengers Mansion in Manhattan, New York City, New York, specifically Pym Laboratories, and Crestkill, New Jersey. Oh, so he's been around, but I think that's because he's just been in the comics for so long.
Yeah, that's the thing, is when it gets to the point of someone like Ant-Man, it's like, oh, look at the fucking history on this character.
Like, he's been in it for decades at this point. So identity, public identity, which makes sense. It's difficult to kill a man who can grow to the size of a building and kick you in the face. Just going to put it out there. Citizenship, American. Marital status, divorced. Occupation, adventurer, biochemist, geneticist, scientist, scientist supreme of Earth, former manager of the Avengers compound. So he managed the entire compound, and then his education is a doctorate or PhD in biochemistry.
I'm surprised he hasn't got like 11 fucking doctorates.
Usually, yeah, when you have smart characters in Marvel, it's like they have 15 PhDs. Yeah. Like, Bruce Banner has got just like a laundry list the length of a giraffe's penis of just all his PhDs, but Hank Pym has one in biochemistry. I like this. Characteristics, gender, male, height, 6 foot tall, variable, weight, 83 kilos, variable. Yeah, he's Giant Man.
Yeah, no shit.
He can grow as big as he needs. And then we have origins. He is a human mutated by exposure to Pym particles he discovered, which allow him to alter his size. Continued exposure altered his body, allowing it to naturally produce them. Later turned into a cyborg. What?
Wait, not sure which bit I'm confused more by.
Yeah, he can naturally produce Pym particles. He's also a cyborg. I'm glad we chose Hank Pym instead of Scott Lang on this one, I'll be honest with you, mate. The fuck? Yeah. Oh, and then we usually start with a quote from Hank Pym, like, the character we're talking about, but this one is like 5 paragraphs long, and because, as we mentioned, he's been in the comics for so long, do you really want to cover his life story, or do you want to just delve right into the good stuff and get to powers and abilities?
Yeah, let's just get to the good stuff, Karl.
Right, let's fucking do it. Okay, so we have powers and abilities. For people who don't know, in Marvel, they have a ranking from 1 to 7, 1 being an average human, 7 being nigh omnipotent and godlike. So we have intelligence, 6, strength, 7.
What?
Yeah, 7's like up there with the Hulk and the Juggernaut. So the fuck is going on there? Speed, a 3, durability, a 3, energy projection, a 6. So that's like up there with the likes of Ironman. And then fighting skills are 3, so quite varied, but having a 7 in strength is pretty good. That's, like, as we mentioned, that's like as strong as it is possible for a Marvel hero to be. At that point, their strength goes from being able to bench 100 tons to levels that are incalculable. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious what the fuck is going on here, so let's delve right into it, shall we? So powers. Size reduction. As Ant-Man and Yellowjacket, Henry Pym possessed the power to reduce himself to the size of an ant, approximately 1/2 inch in height, by the means of a subatomic particle known as the Pym particles. The nature, source, and mechanics of the Pym particles remain unrevealed. So they're named after him, and he doesn't know how they work.
Well, I'm sure he does, but he doesn't want anyone else to know.
Maybe he doesn't want to tell anyone. So originally, when Pym inhaled a gas or drank a potion containing the Pym particles, you could tell this is like a comic character who's existed for a long time because he was drinking a fucking potion. So that's like so old school, it's almost quaint, like drinking the potion to make yourself strong. So it says here that upon inhaling or drinking a potion containing Pym particles, the particles will interact with the electrical impulse of his brain, creating an organism-wide reducing field. Thus activated, the field reduced the size of his entire body at a uniform rate to the size he desired. Although he usually chose to reduce himself to 1/2 inch in height, he could reduce his size to any size between that and his normal size. Usually, Pym did not compress his mass into this smaller size. Instead, his mass was somehow extended into an extra physical dimension that is opened by activating the Pym particles.
Oh no, we're getting into this bullshit, Karl.
So what that basically means is, we don't want to explain it, so we just say it goes into another dimension. Which they do so much in comics, and it always annoys me.
And I love that kind of stuff because it's same with, we don't know what Pym particles do exactly. It's just, look, we can't be arsed coming up with a really convoluted explanation. Just deal with it.
So if we say we don't know how they work, we can basically make them do anything we want. As evidenced by the following line here, which says that when Hank wanted to return to his original size, he would inhale another gas or drink another potion, which contained another type of Pym particles, which are also not explained. These particles interact with his brain in a similar way to create an enlarging field.
And also apparently just pull his mass back from another fucking dimension.
Lucas, you joke, but it actually says that it would reclaim the mass from the other dimension. It's like, what? Which means, like, technically, a piece of Hank Pym's ass is hiding in another dimension. Anyway, then we have here size addition. Pym discovered Pym particles which interact with his brain to enable him to grow to a gigantic height as Giant Man and Goliath. The growth process required the rapid acquisition of bodily mass, which comes from, do you want to guess, Lucas?
Another dimension?
Another dimension that is unexplained. This extra dimensional mass fortified all of his cellular tissues, including bones and muscles, and able to support his increased weight and give him superhuman strength and durability. So yeah, that's the thing people might not know of. When something increases like in size, its weight increases like tenfold, which is why the idea of giant creatures is basically science fiction. It says early in his career, this caused health problems due to the strain, and he was subject to various limitations on his size and the duration of his transformation. Which basically means that this is too powerful, we have to find a way to limit his ability to do it. Because if he can just be big all the time, why would he not be giant all the time?
Yeah, and it's similar to in the MCU where it's just like, oh, well, I get really tired after I do Giant Man.
He is now capable of growing to hundreds of feet in height, exceeding the heights of even the tallest buildings in New York. He can grow past the barriers of the microverse to enter overspace, a point above and apart from all other realities where it is possible to confer with abstract cosmic entities.
What just happened, Karl?
I don't understand any word I just said there, but the word microverse and overspace are fucking sick.
Yeah, they are.
So
It
cool.
sounds like he just went out of bounds and started performing glitches.
He's just no clipping it. Speaking of which, another one of his powers is entering into other planes of existence.
Oh, God.
Pym can use the Pym particles to shrink to sub-microscopic stature. When 99.99+% of his mass was extra-dimensionally shunted, he was sent into a subatomic universe, or microverse, one of countless alternate universes accessible to Earth only by mass shunting. Such as shrinking down to enter the microverse, and on one occasion, growing into the plane inhabited by such cosmic beings as the Living Tribunal, who's like the most powerful character in all of Marvel.
Hank Pym just bumps into them like, you're right, mate.
Yeah, what are you doing? He just grows so large, he enters another field of existence. Like, that's almost Cthulhu-esque, where he's so, like, incomprehensibly large that he's on another plane of existence entirely. Oh, it says here as well that is when he was the Wasp, he had the enhancements of the Wasp stings, allowing him to fire powerful bioelectric energy blasts from his hands, and he had wings.
It's like when he's shifting into separate dimensions, do you really need wings?
Do you know all the stuff we just covered is like, oh yeah, you can grow to the size of like the universe and go confer with like abstract cosmic entities.
Yeah.
Just like chat to them. It says here that when he had his wings, he could fly at 38 miles an hour. For up to an hour before he got tired. It's just like, one of these things is like not comparable to the other. Abilities, super genius intelligence. Dr. Henry Pym is one of the world's foremost biochemists and also possesses considerable expertise in numerous scientific fields, such as subatomic physics, robotics, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, programming, emergency medicine, optics, and entomology. He has also referred to himself as one of the 5 smartest people on the planet, which makes him capable of rivaling others such as Reed Richards, and he is regarded by the Eternity, which is like capitalized, so I'm guessing it's like a group or a hero, as the Earth's scientist supreme. Lucas. Martial arts. Hank had received training in judo before becoming Antman. He used a judo move to overpower an ant. So he shrunk down to the size of an ant and judo flipped it. Bear in mind as well, what's that fact everyone knows about ants? Is it that they can lift 50 times their own body weight?
I think it's 100.
Like, oh, some ridiculous. It's like if an ant was the size of a human, or if a human had the proportional strength of an ant, you could lift up a tank. And like all insects possess some levels of strength, which is why Spider-Man's so strong. And he shrunk down to the size of an ant and judoed it. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, strength level. Here we go, Lucas. This is where we find out why he's like, a category 7 strength level. Pym has the normal human strength of a man, his age, height, and build engaged in intensive regular exercises. He retains this strength level even at insect size. So he's as strong as a man when he's an insect, which explains why he can overpower that ant. Even still, just the image of a man judo flipping an ant is amazing. So at giant size, however, Pym's strength varies according to the height he achieves. At 10 feet tall, he can lift or press 1,000 pounds. At 25 feet tall, he can lift or press 10 tons. The higher Pym grows past 25 feet, the more of his strength he had to use simply to support his own enormous mass. At 100 feet tall, Pym can lift or press 50 tons. He is capable of class 100 strength at heights beyond 100 feet tall, though he usually cannot maintain those gigantic sizes for long. So, he does have the potential to be as strong as someone like the Hulk when he's like, his base level of anger of lifting like 100 tons, but only when he goes to a massive size that is dangerous to him. If he's the size of a building and he weighs several thousand tons himself, he can probably lift quite a bit as well. It says here that weaknesses, mental difficulties. Henry Pym suffered a series of mental breakdowns over the years. At one point, Hank created a separate personality for himself as the Yellow Jacket, and claimed to have actually killed Pym. He was eventually identified as suffering from bipolar disorder. So Yellow Jacket in the comics is not a separate guy, it's just Henry Pym becoming another person due to a psychotic break, which is a really cool idea.
That is a very cool idea, but sucks for fucking Hank Pym.
So listed underneath paraphernalia and equipment we have his Avengers identity card, which he uses to enter the Avengers mansion. So this is a key card. The same way I get into my office is the same way you get into Avengers Tower, who knew? The cybernetic helmet. As Ant-Man, Pym wore a cybernetic helmet which permitted him to achieve rudimentary telepathic communication with ants and other higher insects and to control their minds. It's super cool. It says here that the Yellow Jacket suit, Yellow Jacket Pym carries miniaturized version of his Ant-Man's helmet device in his cowl. In order to perform the same feats it could, his costume also has artificial wings which allow him to fly up to 38 miles an hour. I love that. You can shrink an entire laboratory or an array of firearms to the size of a microchip when not in use.
A microchip? Fucking hell.
Well, he does it in Ant-Man 2, doesn't he, where he shrinks down his lab and just carries it around like a briefcase.
I do love that moment when they're just like, oh, come on, and it's just boop.
All right, fine. But can I just wait inside? Because I'm not supposed to be out here.
The thing that I don't like, though, is how fast and loose they play with how much do those things weigh.
Yep.
Where they talk about, when you're shrunk down to the size of an ant, you'll punch with the force of a bullet, but then he has a tank on a keychain. Lucas, do you want to guess what his transportation is listed as?
I don't know. It's not the Antmobile.
He just says ants. It's just, under transportation, it just says ants. So Lucas, we'll bring it to a close and end, as we often do, on notes and trivia. And here's the bit of trivia that every fucker in the comments is screaming about. So on March 29th, 2011, many years after Hank's marriage to Janet ended, writer Jim Shooter publicly commented on the infamous arc via a blog in which he denounced the claims that Hank Pym was a wife beater.
Oh shit.
Because that's the thing everyone is probably screaming at Hank Pym right now, that the one panel where he hits his wife. He explained that he had intended for Pym to strike Janet accidentally, but when artist Bob Hall drew the panel, he exaggerated the motion and made it appear as if he deliberately slapped his wife. Shooter claimed there was not enough time before his deadline to have the frames redrawn. As a result, the details of Pym's personal suffering were overshadowed by him being labelled a wife beater. Hall subsequently commented that he was still new to the industry at the time he drew the panel and admitted that the final product may have been in stark contrast to Shooter's intent. There's the famous panel of him like backhanding his wife. It's like, Hank Pym is a wife beater. It's like, for fuck's sake.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then you've got all those other panels. I don't know if it's Hank Pym or Scott Lang when he gets the Antman mantle, going down on his wife as Antman. Early in his career, Henry Pym worried about what would happen if someday he met defeat and death. He wanted someone to carry on his crime-fighting campaign if he died. Which he did via Scott Lang. Henry Pym was criticised by other scientists who viewed his theoretical work as ridiculous. One of them suggested to Pym that he should stick to practical projects. Pym responded that he only wanted to work on projects that appealed to his own imagination. He was not interested in the practical application of his projects. And then he became Antman.
Yeah, like,
so,
did they eat fucking crow on that one? He became a superhero.
When they see him on the news growing to 300 feet tall and just like suplexing Chitauri invaders. Anyway, trivia. As Ant-Man, Henry Pym had a deep emotional connection to some of his ants. When Karl, a winged ant, sacrificed its life to save Pym, he was deeply disturbed by its death. Oh, and that's like the only one that's like, remotely interested, which reminds me just like that the one bit, like the death that hit me hardest in all the MCU is just like when Anthony gets shot. You're like, no!
Oh, no, Anthony,
He's so brutal because he's shooting bullets at a cloud of insects, which is already ridiculous, and he hits an ant. It's like, have you ever watched the film Wanted?
Yeah, I've watched Wanted.
So if people have not seen it, one of the things that's explained in that universe is that there are certain people who are able to control the flow of adrenaline to their own bodies, and as a result, just flood their bodies with adrenaline, which causes their heart to beat several hundred times a minute, allowing them to see in slow motion, which they can use to become super assassins. And they have this great bit where it's like, I want you to shoot the wings off of these flies.
Yeah.
And he puts a gun to the guy's head, and he panics, and he sees it slow motion, and he shoots the wings off the flies. But then they show it in normal speed, and it's just the guy firing wildly at a trash can with a pistol.
Yeah.
It's like, I imagine that's what Ant-Man looked like when it wasn't in slow motion.